Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Honda CR-V. The CR-V technically has two different screen sizes that are available. So it's either going to be a smaller 7-inch screen or this 9-inch instead. And then even the 9-inch screen, there's two different variations, one with factory navigation and one without. But it doesn't matter which screen you're on because you can hook up either Android or iPhone devices to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze on iPhones, or Google Maps and Waze on Android devices right through the screen. And I'll show you that as we get into our smartphone connection. But in this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about the infotainment system. So starting off, you've got a series of different buttons along the outside of the screen. You've got your home button that's going to pull you to this screen. There's a basic back button as well. So if you're on any of the screens, you can either push back or you can push home to get back to this home screen instead. So back essentially brings you back a page. Home is going to bring you back to the home screen. There's a little volume rocker here, so you can adjust your volume this way. You can also push in order to turn the audio off. So it's very straightforward doing that. And then even on the steering wheel, there are a few different buttons that you can use here. So you can change between songs stations. So it's essentially adjusting between your different presets, increase or decrease the volume. And then there's some other buttons to go through the cluster screen. But if you want to walk through on the steering wheel buttons or the cluster, you'll find that down in the description of this video. From here, you can also do a little seek this way. You've got your audio sources along the very top, so you can choose between AM, FM, SiriusXM, if you had a USB stick with MP3s, if your phone was hooked up over Bluetooth, or if you had a Bluetooth iPod, whatever the case may be, or your smartphone. From there, you've also got whether your audio is toggled on off, if there was a device connected, your current connection level, time, and then along the bottom, there are a series of other options, so navigation, phone, etc., with different display options. Now, one thing is that you could also technically adjust the shortcuts out here. So you just do a push and hold there in order to be able to swap these out. So you can kind of customize them a little bit in order to make them your own. So on this screen, you can do a button push and hold there and drag around if you wanted to customize. And then just done to lock in your layout. So it's pretty straightforward there. And then swiping across gets you a boatload of options. So let's dive in and I'll show you everything as we go. Starting off with all apps, that's going to be the available apps on the device. You can also check off to say whether or not it shows up on the home screen. So you've got a little bit of flexibility there. Navigation. So you do have the option for factory navigation built in the higher trim levels of the vehicle. Outside of that, like I said, you can connect your phone, but using factory navigation is so straightforward. You do have pinch to zoom flexibility here. So just pinch to zoom in out this way, drag around. It is a little bit slower, but the next generation screen is based off of Google operating system and it's got Google Maps built in. It's just so much nicer in comparison. You could change up your heading this way if you'd like to, zoom in or out this way. You can search for addresses here as well. You can search for point of interest icons. So you could search for different things. So if we look for nice and Canadian of me, Tim Hortons, and search. There we go. We've got all the different options available. So let's just pick one that's a bit further away. You can save it as a destination, or you can look at available routes. So if there were multiple ways that you could get to that end destination, it would give you different options available. And whichever route you then choose, you could hit go. And then one nice thing is while you've got factory navigation here, inside of the cluster screen, so there's no head-up display, unfortunately, but inside of the cluster, if we hit the little home icon there, you can then drop down and you're looking for navigation. And navigation, as you start to drive, that's going to replace the compass with your turn-by-turn directions. So it's not like full map and cluster, unfortunately, but you'll at least be able to see the next turn as you begin to drive. And then you could hit the X in order to cancel out your search. You can hit the little search icon there if you wanted to search for other point of interest icons. So let's say if we wanted to fill up on gas. And we've got different options here. So let's just select one of these here. And we can go, save, or available routes. So what it's going to do is we can either add a new route or set it as a waypoint. So it's essentially a stop in between. Select either option, and then you've got the two options. So we're going to go to get gas and then Tim Hortons. If you wanted to flip it around, and if you had multiple addresses available there or multiple stops, you're essentially putting in a longer trip. You can then save your destinations. You can hit the X icon, and then it's going to fully route you out. And you're set to go. You could mute out notifications if you don't want them. You can also hit this option to avoid things. So on your map, do you want to show your traffic? You want to change out the color? Point of interest icons. Breadcrumb trail is kind of a neat one. So I want you to think of that one almost like a Hansel and Gretel type. So with that going, if you Let's go back and back. So as you start to drive, you'll start to notice little breadcrumbs around all of the places that you've been to. So it's very useful, especially if you're new to an area or if you're going off-road. So I think when we saw there, so breadcrumb recording, so off-road only. So if you're going off-road, then it's essentially going to let you know this is where you've been. It's actually pretty useful. You can delete your breadcrumb trails as well. For route options, you can detour. You can look at the full route overview. Route demo, nothing exciting there. Route preferences is where we want to go to avoid freeways, toll roads, ferries, trains, etc. So you could deselect any of these ones if you wanted to avoid them on your route. And back, traffic rerouting, nothing exciting there for these options. Guidance options, do you want to show your estimated arrival time or time remaining? So how much further do you have to go in order to get to your end destination? Do you want to automatically zoom in? So as you get closer to the end destination, zoom in or out as necessary. And turns and things like that. Voice guidance language, do you want to be in either English, Spanish, or French? Basic tutorial, nothing exciting there. Manage places, you can add in a home address. And one of the big benefits there is that you could hit the voice command prompt and you'd be able to say navigate home. And if you have a home address saved, it'll navigate there. And then you could also, through the cluster screen, select up in order to go home or to different save places, recents, and things like that. So you're just moving through. So a big benefit there is just being able to say navigate home or do your different saved addresses, downloaded places, and things like that. Map updates. So if they were available, you could update over Wi-Fi at home. You could do a full map update over USB. So you'd essentially go to the Honda website in order to download that update if you'd like. You can adjust your vehicle positioning, reset everything to the default, look at software license. So nothing overly exciting there. But that's using factory navigation and then just canceling out the route, cancel. And then if you were to go search again, you could go home, go to your recents. So those are the addresses that we've searched for recently. You could hit more and then look at all of your different point of interest icons. But that's using factory navigation inside of the vehicle. Next up is going to be adding in a phone. So you can see there, no devices are connected. So all we're going to do is connect a new device, then search for devices. And we're just waiting, look at how quick that was, Honda CR-V to show up. It'll take a second. PIN numbers match up, so we're going to pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one, but I am fully connected here. So you could stop here if you wanted to. Your phone is connected for audio and for your phone. So you could just stop here and then you could make phone calls, listen to your audio stream that way if you'd like to. But you've also got the flexibility of setting up Apple CarPlay. And CarPlay inside of some of the screens is going to be wired. Other screens, it's going to be wireless. In the screens where it's wireless, like what we're looking at here, you do have the flexibility for backwards compatibility. So you could go over USB if you'd like to, but you want to make sure that the USB cable has a data transfer icon, because if it doesn't, it's just not going to work. But what we're going to do is just hit CarPlay and then connect. And it's working on connecting here. It'll take a second. So it's essentially just connected to our phone itself. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm waiting for. Use CarPlay with the CR-V. Yes, we want to use CarPlay. I'll take a second here. Oh, there we go, launching in, and we are fully connected. So you've got Apple CarPlay here, and you've got full screen. So on the screen itself, you've got your current time, connection level, battery level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last. You can go to your basic home screen. You can swipe across to get to icon views, and it actually is fairly responsive. This basic home screen is slightly customizable. You'll always have a map here, so it's whatever map application was open last. You'll always have your search bar, and then for media, so if you're listening to media. If you've got a calendar notification coming up today, that box would also show up. Otherwise, that's the basic layout you're looking at. Then you've got all of your icons. You've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that you can use through the device here. My favorite, my go-to is going to be Waze. And there are a few key reasons why. Like as you start to drive, you'll be able to mark things off on the map. So if there are cops that are pulling people over, if there's construction going on, if there are accidents, they'll be marked and things like that. So that's going to come down to a matter of personal preference, but I'm a big fan of using Waze. And you can mark things off on the map yourself. So if you're driving, you see that there are police pulling people over. If there are hazards, block lanes, and things like that, you can notify other drivers. You've got Google Maps available as an option here too, where you could search for route options. So if you wanted to change it out to avoid highways, toll roads, and ferries, you could. You can adjust map colors and things like that. So there are different map applications that are available. Downside to CarPlay is that it doesn't support video playback as of yet. So you can't watch video through the screen. I'm like, it'd be nice to see, but it's not there, unfortunately. But you've got all sorts of different options. Like if you're a podcast listener, you've got that option there. Hoopla is a library app. Live One's a radio app. So there are different options. And then you can customize the layout a little bit. You can show driving focus. You've also got your basic appearance. There's a wallpaper option available, so you can kind of customize it a little bit and not fully make it your own, but you can customize it, which is nice. From here, there's a voice command prompt there, so you can do a short button push. And what that's going to do is launch into the assistant for the vehicle. So it's okay, but what you could also do is a long button push and hold instead. And that is going to activate your Siri Assistant instead. So if you're a bigger fan of using the Siri Assistant because you're hooked up over your phone, you've got that flexibility. So short button push is going to be for your factory one. Longer button push and hold will be for your Siri or your phone assistant instead. You could hit the home icon to get back home. You could launch back into CarPlay this way, back home again. And then if we go into our general settings, if you go into your smartphone connection, you've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So we go to Apple CarPlay. We've got two phones that have been previously connected. What I want to do here is connect on my phone, and then I'm disconnecting from CarPlay. So I've essentially disconnected. But if I go back to my phone in the bottom, I could then go to my device list, and I've got my phone. So I'm just going to connect the phone there, and you can select different options here. So if you wanted to reconnect to CarPlay, or if you just wanted to use the phone for streaming audio, you've got that flexibility. But that's how you hook up iPhones inside of the Honda CR-V. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, if you were back on the home screen, you're just hitting phone in either spots. We're just going to connect a new device. And then on your phone, you're just going to search for devices, and we're waiting for Honda CR-V to show up. Galaxy, there we go. Oh, let's try that again. Connect device, and we'll go here. Happens sometimes. There we go. Pin numbers match up there, so we're just going to hit OK, and it'll take a second there. Look at that. Do we want to connect for audio for phone or for Android Auto? On the device when you connect, it's asking you, do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? It's not my car, so I'm again going to say no to that one. And you can stop here. If you wanted to just connect for your audio or for your phone, you could, but you can also connect for Android Auto and connect. And same idea, it is USB compatible inside of the options with wireless, but otherwise it's going to be a wired connection in the lower screen. So the 7-inch screen is going to be wired. The 9-inch screen is going to be wireless as well when you look at the option with factory nav. But we're going to enable Android Auto, and it'll take a second there. There we go. Takes a sec, and emergency contact services down. That's okay. And boom, we are fully connected. So you can see there, you've got your Android Auto set up. Slide along the side. You can swipe across. You've got your little icon view back to your main screen there. You've got the voice command prompt. You could also do a long push and hold on the steering wheel button in order to activate your command prompt that way instead. You've got the map icon that you can push, and that stretches you across into full screen. And one thing I do like about Android Auto is that it's full pinch to zoom capabilities, drag and drop there. You can search for addresses. You can hit here in order to show your 3D view, satellite view if you'd like to instead. You've also got a series of different route options, so avoiding highways, toll roads, ferries, etc. You could say whether or not you want notifications, do you want to get your north up view, etc. But that's using Google Maps. It's straightforward. And then if we hit the little icon along the bottom, that brings us back to our little split screen. And then from there, you'd also have the flexibility of hopping between different options here. So basic setup, back to your icon view. Now, if your Android device has Waze installed, but it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video. I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how to get Waze showing up in Android devices if it's not working. You've got the flexibility to be able to customize this layout a little bit as well. So what you're going to do on your phone, you're going to search for Android Auto. You're going to go to Android Auto settings. And then once you do, you've got a boatload of options, but you're looking for customized launcher. And very similar to the iPhone side of things, you can kind of do a drag and drop around if you wanted things to be in a different location, and then drag these things around. Anything with a check mark next to it, you could essentially deselect in order to remove it from the screen. But it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So in order for these changes to come into effect, what you need to do is hop back home. You're going to go into your phone. You're going to go into your settings, change device. From here, you've got the Galaxy that we've connected. You could deselect, so you're essentially disconnecting from Android Auto, and it's going to take a second there. So it's connecting to Bluetooth. And then once that goes away, we're going to hop back in. We're going to reconnect to Android Auto and apply. There we go. And we've reconnected and hopping back. So the changes that we've made have now come into effect. So it's that easy being able to set these things up. And then if you hop back to the home screen again, you're going to go back into general settings. So again, you can get to these things a few different ways. So smartphone connection, you've got Android Auto, and we've got the Galaxy that's been connected. So you can disconnect from Android Auto if you'd like to, or go into your phone, settings, change devices, and then you've got both phones. And one cool thing is that you can do a mix and match. So let's say if you wanted one phone connected for your phone calls, you could do it. And then let's say if you wanted the other phone, there we go, connected for audio. You could do that. So you could kind of do a neat little mix and match. So you can either be hooked up to either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a little mix and match otherwise. But it's straightforward being able to set these up. You could then hit options here, Bluetooth in order to turn off Bluetooth completely, priority device. So if you've got multiple phones connected, it's who's going to get connection priority. So who is the vehicle going to attempt to connect to first if you've got multiple people? You can connect into the phone in order to change between all of these different options. You can hit options here to delete the device as well. So we hit delete, and it's deleted that first device, delete, and we're going to connect through and delete, and there we go. And we've deleted both phones from the vehicle. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Honda CR-V. From here, you've got FM available, and that's just going to be for your audio. So you've got your audio sources along the top that you can change between. So FM, AM, SiriusXM, USB, etc. Hopping back, you've got all of your different presets. So if you wanted to be able to save a preset in, what you're going to do is you can tune to a station a few different ways. So you can tune this way manually if you'd like to. You can see different station lists that are available. So if you're new to an area, you could take a look and see all the different stations that are available. Some stations broadcast digitally. That's where the HD comes into play. So you're just going to be able to get more stations that way. You could tune to a station this way instead. And to save it, just going to push and hold. And that resets and overwrites. And you can do that for any station. So if you've got a series of different stations, you're just going to do a button push and hold. You can seek out stations this way, tune, you can scan as well, look at your station list. If we hop into our audio sources, go to SiriusXM for a second, you've got all of your different SiriusXM presets too. You could fast forward into the song, you can hit settings there in order to look for some basic SiriusXM settings, and back. If we hop back into AM, FM, etc., you can see there all of your different options again. Settings here gives you some basics. So if the HD radio is available, you've got artwork available if it's on these stations. So if they broadcast all of that info, you'd be able to view it there. There are a series of different sound settings also. So you can adjust your bass and treble. So you can see here it's balanced out. What I've found is the treble down a bit, mid-range up, bass cranked by like 3 or 4. Something like this tends to give pretty good audio in my opinion. But that's going to be a matter of preference. So what I actually recommend is playing one of your favorite songs and then navigating through here until you find something that works perfectly for you. You can adjust it out. So do you want it to be driver focused? Do you want it to be rear focused? Do you want to do a little fade, balance, whatever the case may be? You can have it driver focused, front focused, full vehicle, which is kind of neat. Speed compensated volume. As you start to go faster or slower, it's automatically going to adjust the volume for you. And that's using media inside of the vehicle. Bluetooth audio. So if your phone was connected over Bluetooth, you'd be able to listen to audio this way. Smartphone connections. So if you had a phone connected, that would show up. Power flow is available in the hybrid versions of the ride. So you can see your current fuel economy, your current total vehicle range, how much juice you've got inside of the battery, and then you've got basics like which wheel is getting which amount of power. You'll be able to see the electric motor driving and recharging the battery as you drive as well. It's actually kind of neat the way that Honda's done this graphically. It's subtle, but it kind of looks cool at the same time. And then inside of the cluster screen, you'd have the flexibility of seeing that info as well. So if you hit the home icon, you can move up or down until you get to your power level. And then from there, you've got the same basic layout. So you've got the same look as you go. So on both the cluster screen and on the infotainment. If you didn't have a hybrid, that wouldn't be available. You've got SiriusXM available, so that just launches you right in. From here, you've got a series of different general settings, so some basic system info, where you can adjust the date and time. So adjust the date and time, I normally recommend to keep it automatic. You can turn automatic off, which then unlocks the flexibility to actually be able to adjust this yourself. But because when we're in auto mode, it's going to gray these things out. Time zone, I normally recommend keeping that in auto mode as well. The only time you're going to want to adjust it this way is if you live somewhere close to a time zone and it constantly flips you back and forward from one to the other. So you can permanently lock out whatever time zone that you'd like. Daylight savings times available. Do you want your date format to look? So month, day, year, etc. You can adjust out your language. So do you want to be in either English, Spanish, or French? And that's going to be either for the center display here or for the cluster screen. So you can adjust it out as necessary. Back out, touchscreen sensitivity. Do you want it to be more sensitive? Yay or nay? You can adjust some system volumes, which is kind of cool. So your text-to-speech, navigation, and phone calls, you can have all of these set to a unique volume if you'd like to. Do you want to share data? Yay or nay? Nothing exciting there. Factory data reset is kind of neat. So if the screen's giving you issues or if you're selling your vehicle, you could just do a full data reset in order to bring it back to your factory default instead. Then there's some basic detail info. Smartphone connection, which we've already seen. So Apple CarPlay, Android Auto if your phone is connected. Different connection options. So Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So are you connected over Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth connections? Do you want to connect a new device? Display options where you can adjust the brightness of the screen. You want it brighter, darker, etc. You can also adjust the contrast level, the black levels. There's a display mode down here as well, which I'll show you in a sec, or bring it back to the default instead. Different sound settings. So we've already seen this one. So adjusting your treble, mid-range, bass. You can adjust the camera, your rear camera specifically for your guidelines. So do you want those on or off? And the guidelines are these little guys. And then there's the dynamic guidelines as well. So as you go to rotate the wheel, you'll see those dynamic guidelines. So whether or not those ones show up are a matter of preference. Cross traffic monitor. If you start to back up and somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, you'll get a little notification letting you know. For voice control, there's either assist or normal. Assist is going to essentially be a more step-by-step process, so you get a lot more notifications. Think of that one more like an advanced mode for your normal. That's the basics of your general settings. You've got a series of vehicle settings too. So driver assistance setup, you've got a boatload of different options for safety. Forward collision warning, if there's potentially going to be a collision, you can get a notification. You've got options for your road departure, so as you start to veer over into another lane, that's based off of having this setting turned on. It's a very useful one. And when it's enabled, you'll notice that it goes green inside of the cluster screen, but it's going to keep you nice and balanced in your lane as you go. Blind spot system's a neat one as well. So you can get either an audible alert or you can get a visual alert. So both of them. And what that means is that if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to highlight in the side view mirror, letting you know that someone's entered that blind spot. The driver attention warning, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that to take a break. So you'll either get a little bit of a tactile alert, an audible alert, tactile, which is just going to be that shake, or nothing's going to happen. So you can at least toggle that one off if you want to. Rear sensor, so that beeping that you get as you back up, you can toggle that one off if you don't like it. Meter setup is going to be for the cluster screen, so you can adjust some basics there. So you can manually reset your trip A counter. You can have it reset when the ignition's turned off or when you fully fuel the vehicle up. Fuel efficiency, turn-by-turn display. So if you've got factory navigation inside of your vehicle, you'll also get turn-by-turn directions inside of that cluster screen there as you drive. Let's see, speed distance units. So do you want to be in either kilometers an hour or miles? And you can see there, it updates everything nice and simply. So it's going to update the speed there. Obviously, because we're a Canadian spec vehicle, you'll always be in your kilometers an hour there, but your digital speed will at least be changed out. And that's the same thing with your total trip counter along the very bottom. So whether you're in miles or kilometers. Rear seat reminder, so when you go to turn the vehicle off, it can give you a heads up letting you know that there is potentially something in the back seat, but you can toggle that off. Driver seat memory is available inside of the vehicle as well. So if it's available, there will be a switch along your driver's side door. So once you've got your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to, along the door here, you're just going to hit set, and then either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. From here, easy entry exit's kind of a neat one. So with that one turned on, when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to lower the seat and back it up for you to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. I'm not a fan of that one, but if you are, you can keep that one enabled. Key access gives you a few different options. So when you go to unlock the doors, is it strictly the driver's door that becomes unlocked, or is it all doors? You can press again for all doors to become unlocked though. Key access, so flash, so when you go to unlock the vehicle, do you get a flash there? Do you get a beep? Remote start, do you want to toggle that on or off so you can't remote start from the fob? And then there's lockout protection. From here, there's basics for lighting setup. So auto high beam is kind of a neat one. So you've got a series of different light modes that are available inside of the vehicle. Auto mode, when you've got the auto high beam mode enabled, what's going to happen is if you've got your high beams on, you can permanently lock them out this way. But the auto mode, what's going to happen is if the vehicle recognizes somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn your high beams off. If there's nobody oncoming and it recognizes it needs it, it's going to turn your high beams on. It's actually kind of neat. You can flash your high beams out this way if you'd like to. You could go to the bottom light mode and push away to permanently lock your high beams out as well. So straightforward, but I'm a big fan of using the auto high beam mode. Interior dimming lights, when do you want your interior lights to turn off? When do you want your headlamps to turn off? So when you go to lock the vehicle, do they just turn off right away? Do they stay on for 15 seconds? So up to 60 seconds total. And then nothing exciting there. Door setup, when do you want the doors to automatically lock or unlock? So as you start to drive, when you shift from park, or do you never want them to automatically lock? When do you want the doors to automatically unlock? Walkaway lock is also a really cool one. So if you've forgotten to lock your vehicle, you start walking away, it'll automatically lock the doors for you. Let's see, keyless lock. Do you want to get feedback as you go to lock the vehicle? And then remote window control is such a neat one. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how a few of these different options work. If you do a double push on the unlock button, so you're going to go 1, 2, hold. Watch this. You can release deposit part way or push and hold again. Look at that. And not only do all 4 windows open up, but so does the sunroof if you've got it available. So that one's pretty cool. From here, different options, power tailgate setup. So you've got your hands-free access, yay or nay, your power open using the handle on the outside. Do you want to be able to have it power open, or do you want it to be manual instead? Power, I think, is the way to go, but I do like that there's a keyless open there as well. Predictive eco, and then maintenance information. So just basic info. So if you're changing oil out yourself, you could reset that data. You've got your trip counters. So you've got your trip A versus trip B, and then current. So current is from when the vehicle was last turned on. That's your total fuel economy that you've gotten. You've got your trip A versus trip B counter. It's kind of neat because you can see what kind of economy you've gotten. I'm curious what, okay, yeah, so they didn't drive far. With terrible fuel economy there. But the economy overall inside of this ride's been pretty good. And then you can hop back in here to reset those options too. USB if you were connected, AM, system updates, if there were any updates that were available would show up here. There's a Wi-Fi hotspot, your clock. So if you wanted to adjust out your clock, you could. Date and time, you can hop in this way. You could change the clock face. So you've got some pretty wonky and wild designs, but if you wanted it a little bit more subtle, you'd have that flexibility. From there, you've got Honda Link, smart shortcuts for different options along the bottom, and then your display mode in order to be able to adjust the screen brightness, or you can toggle the display off and then just button push in order to get back to the screen again. So straightforward. And then if you're ever running into any issues inside of your vehicle, things like CarPlay's not connecting properly, you're running into any navigation issues or other issues, you don't have to do a full factory reboot. In order to do a soft reset, you've got to hit the home icon along with the power button and then the left seek button as well. So the back button, you're just going to press and hold that for a few seconds. You got that little boop, and then you've got a few options here. So self-diagnostic mode, no, we've got detailed info and settings. So you've got a bunch of different options here, but we're not there yet. So you've got different options for your basic data. But if we now hit back, power, and then the back button there again, so we're going to hit all 3 for a few seconds. There we go. You've got your Wi-Fi mode setting. You can do a system reboot and things like that. So we're just going to do a system reboot, and it'll take a second in order to actually reboot the screen. But this is where you're going to go, and that's how you're going to do it if you're running into basic issues. Like I said, CarPlay issues, if navigation's not working, other system settings aren't working properly. You're just going to do a basic soft reboot there, and it'll take a few seconds to load up, but you'll see the Honda logo pop up, and we know that we're good to go. It takes a few seconds in, but that's how you reboot the infotainment system, doing a soft reboot without having to remove any of your previous saved settings and any of your previously connected phones and things like that. You can see there a few seconds in, and we are set to go. So I know that this is a lot of information that I covered off here, but that's everything you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Honda CR-V.